Welcome aboard. Welcome to today's tour. Today's tour has us in Humboldt County, California, and we are at the Shelter Cove Airport, airport code 0Q5. For today's tour, we are flying to Alderpoint. Alderpoint is the backdrop for the 2018 Netflix documentary Murder Moutain. The Netflix documentary, it dives into the unusually high amount of missing persons and the murders that take place in Humboldt County, as well as the legal and illegal marijuana trade, which is part of the entire story. Well, let's get the plane started. We'll get the cockpit set up. We will set a flight plan that will take us over Alderpoint. As we depart here from Shelter Cove, find a seat, buckle up, get a cold drink. Let's fly. Let's take a look around the airport here. Shelter Cove is about 50 acres. The airport here only has one runway, but we are right on the coast, so it should be a beautiful place to take a look around and depart from.
Zero Quebec 5 traffic dude 005 is taxiing to runway 30.
We are on our way. Let's taxi to our takeoff. If you're new here, welcome aboard. What we do is we find interesting places to fly to that have interesting stories, and we fly to them here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And for the aircraft today, we are back in the Cessna Grand Caravan, the 208B.
Zero Quebec 5 traffic dude 005 taking off runway 30 departure to the north.
Fairly simple flight plan today. As you can see, we are at Shelter Cove 0Q5, and we are going to fly over Alderpoint in search of the area known as Murder Moutain, and we will land today. We'll be arriving at a small airstrip called Ruth, and it has the code T42. On our departure here, we will be heading northeast towards that airstrip Ruth, which will take us just south of Alderpoint. So we'll just make our way a little north once we get close, try to find Murder Mountain, try to find the town of Alderpoint. We are airborne. We are on our way to Alderpoint here in Humboldt County, California. Humboldt County is located on the north coast of California. We're about 270 miles north of San Francisco. It's pretty much dense forest. It's a mountainous area, and it has about 110 miles of coastline. But as I mentioned, the area is also known for an unusually high amount of missing persons. And that's what was highlighted in the 2018 Netflix documentary Murder Mountain. It's a true crime documentary. And today we are going to talk about that documentary and tour the area. Murder Mountain was a 9-part series on Netflix, and it begins with the 2013 disappearance of a 29-year-old Garret Rodriguez. Garrett went missing within a year of arriving here in Humboldt and joining what was the highly profitable black market of the marijuana trade. The area has a long-time reputation of being a lawless and dangerous community. They say that the marijuana boom here has many commonalities with the 1840s gold rush. This dense, mountainous area has always been attractive to people who wanted to lay low or just simply go off the grid. The story of Humboldt is a fascinating one, and the missing people and the murders described in the documentary are just one part of the story and the history of Humboldt. The mountain itself, Murder Mountain, is about 300 miles north of San Francisco. And the county is also known as the Emerald Triangle because of its cannabis cultivation. It's the largest cannabis producing area in the U.S. And Alderpoint, which is a small area in the southern Humboldt County, has the nickname of Murder Mountain. The name Murder Mountain, the nickname started in the 1980s. During the 1980s, there was a serial killer couple, James and Susan Carson, who were charged with the murder of 3 people in the area. At the time, the couple claimed that they were in a holy war on witches. And although it may not be plagued with serial killers since then, there is an unusually high amount of people that go missing in Alderpoint. The story of the area really goes back to the 1970s with the veterans returning from Vietnam, veterans suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other like-minded friends found refuge in Humboldt County, where they could lay low and treat their issues with cannabis that they would grow here in the mountainous area of Alderpoint. As we said, Humboldt County is dense forest, mountainous, and it's a pretty remote area, which makes it perfect for the illegal cannabis trade. Over the years and even decades, as the cannabis production grew in the area, what this did is it put the residents of the area and law enforcement at odds with each other. In the 1980s, federal authorities joined state and local law enforcement in a campaign against the marijuana growing. The locals described that time in Northern California here as a war zone. Black helicopters and National Guard and federal agents descended on the area, destroying crops and homes. This once peaceful area had been transformed into a chaotic struggle between the locals and law enforcement. And Alder Point is straight ahead of us, so I think we're going to find out that to the right of us here is the mountain, which is considered Murder Mountain. But we'll follow this river ahead. I believe the river comes to a sharp bend, and the town of Alderpoint sits like right inside the curve of the river bend. And this is Alder Point. It sits right here at the corner of this river. In the documentary, there's a few different scenes that take place on a bridge, and I believe that bridge below us is probably that bridge from the documentary. We'll head back now and take a good pass right over the mountain. And you'll see cut out of the forest, or cut out of the trees, you'll see these farms where most of these marijuana farms are cut into the mountain. From a distance you see all these what look like bald spots on the mountain, which I assume are mostly farms. Because the marijuana trade is part of what's considered the black market, it was inevitable that it was exploited by nefarious groups that used this area's remoteness and the existing covert supply lines for more serious and sinister drugs. Once the more serious criminal organizations set up in the area, violence and confrontation rose, and maybe making the missing people more common and much harder to solve. A major part of the storyline in the documentary Murder Mountain is the story about the disappearance of Garret Rodriguez. His last contact with family and friends was in either late December 2012 or early January 2013. His father reported him missing in April of 2013. In late May, Garrett's pickup truck was found in a remote area in southern Humboldt County. This was about 20 miles from where Garrett worked on one of the marijuana farms. He was last seen in person during his last visit back to see his friends in December in San Diego. But by April, friends and family all communicated with each other and came to the conclusion that no one had been in contact with him. They all agreed that with Garrett, this was unusual for him to not have contacted anybody. Once Garrett was reported missing by his father, the local Humboldt authorities got involved in the case, although they didn't have much success at first.
Tango 42 traffic dude 00512 miles west, 2,300 feet inbound to land runway 31.
His father also hired a private investigator, Chris Cook. At some point during the investigation, the private investigator learned that neighbors in the area had suspected that Garrett was dead. After the investigation went nowhere, 8 local men took it upon themselves to get some answers. The group, known as the Alderpoint 8, confronted a man that many believed to be responsible for Garrett's disappearance. And they forced this guy at gunpoint to show them where Garrett's body was buried. The rumor had it that he had been killed and buried by this person on the mountain somewhere, and that's what they wanted to find out. Following this confrontation, it turned out that an anonymous tip was then called in to the sheriff, and that tip was where Garrett's body was to be found, and the sheriff later confirmed that Garrett's body was indeed found at that location. So whatever information they found out by whatever means that night turned out to be true. Looks like this airstrip, Ruth, is down in this valley here, so we'll get lined up. We're passing by it now. It's off to our left, but we'll get into that valley between the two ridge lines, line up, and hopefully have a pretty easy landing. That's the story of Murder Mountain. We toured a little bit of the area, saw Murder Mountain, saw many of the areas that appear to be marijuana cultivation. Now let's try to find that small airstrip, Ruth, and get the plane on the ground and wrap this tour up. Hope you enjoyed today's tour.
Another man is believed to be missing somewhere in the hills of Humboldt County. Today, the Sheriff's Office issued a press release asking for the public's assistance in finding 29-year-old Garret Rodriguez. He is reportedly driving a 1998 Dodge Ram pickup truck.
We are on the ground, small airstrip. I hope you enjoyed today's tour of the Humboldt County and Alderpoint areas. Hopefully I'll see you again on one of the upcoming tours. And until the next time.